So this is a reply piece to a message I got on my YouTube last night that I wanted at first just to reply in text, but upon reading it a couple times, took a minute, grammar, uh, I felt it deserved a bit more of a video response, and now that I can mostly talk again after being sick for the past 4 days, I felt it was long overdue to do a video anyway. And this is Yu-Gi-Oh based as well, for those wondering right off the bat. Uh, I got a message from someone saying that they wanted me to give them advice on making a Nordic deck. And for those who have difficulty remembering, Nordic were the Thor, Loki, and Odin synchros that had the Nordic cards spread out amongst supers, normal rares, a number of sets ago. Excuse me, still getting over that. And was a 5Ds base deck. But storyline, anyway. And first off, to clarify a few things that he asked me to do, like this is, just kind of, I'll generalize this a bit. Um, First off, always play a deck that you enjoy to play. If you don't enjoy playing the deck isn't ever going to be 100%, because you're just going to go through the motions. Uh, Enjoy the decks you play. And if you have a deck, say Nordic, that you really enjoy, then keep building it, try it out, try different, you know, builds with it, different techniques, stuff with it. Just try it. But there's some things you need to keep yourself from trying to accomplish. One of which is trying to make your deck like other decks. Your deck isn't like other decks. Your Nordic deck isn't going to be as good as or similar in playstyle to a Wind Up or a Chaos or Dark World or an Insector. It's not. That's not how it was built. That's not how it was made. It was made to be played differently than those decks. You shouldn't be looking to be as quick or as complex as some of those decks can be. You need to be looking at the strengths of your deck. What can your deck do? And you should also try to avoid being too focused on just your deck type. So if you're building Nordic gods, you first might want to throw all three gods in there. Well, okay. Well, look at what they require. Each one requires a different type of tuner. One requires Nordic beasts, one requires Nordic adjourners, and one requires Nordic ascendants. Hold on, Nordic Alfar, sorry, and ascendants. They all require different tuners, so that's different tuners you have to throw in your deck, which makes your deck run just not as well because it is required to throw these cards in there. Now, Nordic creatures in general are useful, and they all work with one another. It's just those specific types of Nordics have to be used for these tuners for these creatures. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you build a deck like this is figure out, okay, which god do I want to work on? Your deck needs a goal. Your goal should be one of those three gods. Now, I've only done a bit of research, like about an hour's worth of research, um, and from what I can tell, uh, Thor is a pain to get out because its tuner, its required tuner, in order to get it out speedy, isn't going to work in the current meta. Loki isn't bad. There's a lot of stuff that works there with him. Uh, Odin is probably the best and easiest with his tuners. He has one that if you control no monsters, your opponent, however, controls a monster, you throw it down, you discard two Nordic creatures from your hand, you special summon two tokens, you can immediately synchro into Odin. And the other tuner has a lot of versatility to it, so it can adapt itself easier to given situations. Um, it it's probably seen more as, oh, this tuner can be used to summon any of the gods, so that gives this deck all sorts of versatility. No. While that could be true, yes, okay, in theory, you could get out the other gods with this tuner in your deck. That shouldn't be your goal. If that happens, fantastic. You know, that's great that that happened, and if you can throw out that god, great. And if you want to throw 1 or 2 copies of them in your synchro deck, or your extra deck, I'm sorry, then alright, if you have room, great. Your goal should always be Odin. You should have at least maybe 2 copies of him in your extra deck. And you shouldn't forego other options in your extra deck, like having different exceeds of ranks that complement what you decide to put in your deck. Other synchros that complement what you can possibly make. Building a synchro deck is actually a little more difficult now, not because, you know, people prefer exceeds. It's the fact that exceeds exist. Synchro decks had a tendency of having a lot of the same star levels, or a lot of similar star levels. So now you have all these other options to consider for your extra deck, where before you just had to look at what you could build for synchro creatures and look at the versatilities of the options you had available to you. So the extra deck is a little more difficult. So, okay, back to building this Nordic deck. So I'm not going to tell you, the person who messaged me, this part of this is directed directly at you, but to people in general as well. I'm not going to tell you ever how to exactly build a deck. That's part of the fun, that's part of experimenting, and to tell you exactly how to build a deck, it wouldn't be your deck. You have to build the deck. Then it becomes yours, and then you can work with it and figure out what does and doesn't work. What you need to do, figure out first the boss monster. Again, I say Odin, alright, because the 2 tuners work fairly well with it. Put enough Nordic beasts, or Nordic creatures that complement what the tuners and what the other creatures do. Nordic cards have a tendency of either throwing out tokens to help you do synchros. They special summon from hand, or they put things back in the hand. So either have enough return to hand to have constant hand control, and then have cards that either throw out tokens or special summon from hand. But have enough hand recovery from graveyard that you never run into playing a card and not being able to special summon off of it, or not having enough to activate the tuner's effect. Have hand recovery for that. You're gonna want some stall. You're gonna want to buy some time. And that's not necessarily gonna be a bad thing. Like, there's some really good cards that are, you know, played regularly. You know, Threatening Roar. I bet you if you played Waboku, people would scratch their head, but they still wouldn't be able to do anything. It's Waboku. Waboku has never been irrelevant. Uh, you know, the basic stalls, like maybe a, you know, Judgment or Warning. You want, you know, clearing like Torrential and Whole Storm. You want your back rows, if they don't directly complement you getting out Odin, then they prevent your creatures from being destroyed, or prevent you from being able to special summon your Odin. You want to make sure your deck never loses focus, that that's what it's supposed to do. You shouldn't be looking at secondary strategies in your deck. Don't try to build a deck that just synchro summons Odin and then putting in 8 cards because you want it to also have chaos options. You want to avoid ever doing stuff like that. If you have 2 different strategies in your deck, they rarely work out. They really do. The goal of a deck should be just that, a goal. A deck should have a goal. A deck should not have 5 different strategies that you spin a wheel and hope you hit the right one. And the cards did fulfill that, you know, goal. Yes, chaos has always been good. Yes, wind-ups are good things. You know, Yes, all these other cards that other decks play are wonderful, but that doesn't mean they're for you. Run your deck to be the best at what your deck is supposed to do. If it's to bring out a boss monster, if it's to empty your opponent's hand, if it's to keep their field consistently clear, if it's to burn their life points, make sure your deck does its goal, and make sure you don't die in the process. If your field's going to be consistently empty because of your strategy, have enough things in your back row or hand or graveyard effects that help prevent you from dying. Dying is bad, avoid it. I strayed to many different topics here, I know I did, uh, but I do think um, I forgot to actually bring up his uh, message, so I don't have his name in front of me. But I do thank people for sending me questions like that, who want to get better at the game and have a passion for a specific deck type or monster. I still carry a Trapmaster in my side deck because Trapmaster is my boy. He's been in my side deck or in my actual deck since that first structure came out. Just has been. It's the same reason I still have a playset of Woolly Thoctars from Magic, but I don't play Magic anymore. The same reason I have a collection of snow-covered lands from Magic, and I don't play Magic anymore. I just really like the cards, you know? And I have memories with those cards. But, that all aside, there's your advice. If anyone else wants advice on different deck types, then next time maybe I'll go a little more specific. I do still want to do something on the Noble Knights, like I said in my previous video. Uh, Not really sure how to approach it because there's not really a lot there for Noble Knights to go off of, but eventually I will get to it. Uh, Thank you and have a pleasant week.